one night where there was an improv soiree that the dance department led, and we had just a beautiful, gorgeous improv moment, and it was so, there felt like a deep connection.
There was like charge there.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Artversations, a meditative conversation about the artistic process. It is such a treat to have your ears today. Thank you for joining me. I'm Brie, like the cheese. Whether you're an artist, an art enthusiast, or just really into small independent podcasts, I'm so glad you made it here. For the next hour, we will dive into a featured artist practice, but for this episode, it's a double feature. The two artists you'll hear from founded Meaningful Movement, an arts organization dedicated to nurturing community and opportunities for artists of all mediums. We discussed the importance of community-driven events, how we can show up imperfectly, and finding inspiration within the company of others. I was so thrilled to have these two artists since I've witnessed and participated in their events. If you're in Toronto and feeling a desire to connect with new artists, I highly recommend attending one of their upcoming events. At Profile is happening on May 24th, or Gathering on June 14th. More about what those titles mean very soon. This episode also marks the start of my arts activation residency in space at the Art Shelter. Frog in Hand's newest home is a geodesic dome off-grid in Mississauga, and it is magical. That being said, we entered into the space during a heavy rainfall, so expect to hear some rain sounds, some bird sounds, a full soundscape of nature. Thank you to Frog in Hand for providing us with space to record. If you want to learn more about the Art Shelter, check out Directions for Dance, the episode I recorded back in December. As well, one of the featured artists also drew a picture while we recorded, so be sure to check out the Instagram at ArtVersationsPod to see the final image. All right, listener, let's settle in and find what's most meaningful, no pun intended, together. Here's an hour with Abbey Richens and Zuri Skeete.
Let's just dive in.
Let's head into it.
Literally dive into the water.
Which is now actually quieted down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to come and go.
I know.
And maybe we can just let it.
It'll probably impact the waves.
Exactly. And that's all good. Because we're at the Art Shelter. A space that for me is like a hug when it comes to like trying to figure out what I'm doing in my life. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for facilitating this awesome art space.
It was meant to happen eventually.
Yeah.
We've been flirting for too long.
And now we're actually getting to the like, hey, let's go out. Actually, let's meet.
First date vibes.
First date. Very grateful for that. I'm curious about a piece of art or an experience that you had witnessing art recently that's just been like giving you that flow, that waterfall of inspiration.
I have mine. I have been diving into Tim Burton universe, especially since watching Big Fish for the first time. And I don't know, I love the play on melancholy that he does because there's this playful exploration with the claymation and his characters and his animations, but then a lot of the themes and things that are being explored are deep and like loneliness, isolation, and I think for me, I love the contrast of play and darkness, and I think both are meant to coexist. And so, yeah, that's been really, really doing me good in the inspiration department this season.
I was watching a few months ago. I was in a documentary phase. I've been in that. Right now I'm in my true crime phase, but I was in a documentary, but specifically about music, because I love music. It's the thing that like keeps me going and makes me makes me tick. I'm always interested in it. I listen very intently to it, whether it's lyrics or the actual instrumental aspects of it. So I watched one, and I think it was Rap Caviar, and it was on Disney Plus. And yeah, I watched it. The first episode was Tyler, the Creator. And
Boss.
yeah, super cool. And I've listened to a little bit, but then after watching, I was like, I need to listen to more. So each episode was a different rapper, a different artist, and it kind of just explained their journey, and some of them were categorized to different political issues. So maybe how females don't have the same expression tools as a male rapper does, or police brutality, racism in general. So yeah, I was watching a lot of rap documentaries, and even a lot that focused on women rappers and women MCs, and also just stories about being Black in an art form. And that's something that's very important and interesting to me, and something that I'm always looking to find out more about from other artists, whether they're dancers, celebrities, famous musicians, just normal people. I think getting those experiences validates me and validates what I'm going through, but also opens my eyes and expression to what else is out there, what is beyond my little bubble of creativity, and how can that inform me to chug forward.
Yeah.
Love. Yeah, it's really cool. Go watch.
Yeah, Rap Caviar.
Rap Caviar.
It's a channel of videos.
Yeah, and Rap Caviar is
I feel like I've come across
this is the thing. It's something else, and this is a very specific one. But yeah, if you look it up on Disney Plus, it's there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I think what you both spoke on is that feeling of needing to get outside of one's practice to keep going, or to kind of
Totally.
maybe redirect.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, especially different mediums.
I was thinking the same thing. My girlfriend's in theater.
Right.
And that is we talk a lot, but they're very different realms. But it's nice to have that outside perspective of we go see dance shows together, but we also go see theater shows together, and you get a lot from those different things. And we spend a lot of time around dancers because it's so close knit. We do everything together, so it's nice to branch out and see other things that you can bring into your own practices.
Totally. That distraction.
Yeah.
Creative blockages maybe, or feeling I don't know what I want to do with my shit. It's okay, well, what else is there, you mentioned? And in the searching of that, the need to get outside of one's own practice, what have you discovered about your own at this point in time?
I've felt very I've had this thing, I was talking about it last night actually, where I'm I feel everything I create is the same.
Ooh, okay.
And yeah, I'm always I feel I'm creating the same piece in different fonts over and over again. And everyone's no, it's different. And then seeing other people who have something that is very them, and then seeing them be able to branch out with that, I'm oh, so maybe that's what I'm doing. So by seeing other works by other people, I'm noticing this feels it's very specific to them, but other works I've seen from them are also very different from that still. So I guess it's that idea of I can have something that feels comfortable and feels safe, but also be able to expand beyond that. And that's what the going outside is grabbing new things or learning new things about myself that I'm okay, I've explored this of me and this of me and this of me. Now I've just discovered this. What can I do with that, and how can I use that to create something? And again, everyone's going through things, and very often we're going through similar things. So there's normally someone else who is also feeling the same thing, that we can have a conversation and create or chat and build something from that little maybe horrible thing or maybe new great thing.
100% agree. Is that the same for you, Abbey?
Yeah, I identify a lot with everything you've said. And then I feel like also in my times when I'm having a winter with dance per se, I can lean on my other creative inspirations, or even, starting my visual arts or digital media practice. I'm noticing when I have a winter in one thing, it's so nice to like fall into the other, and I catch myself going through rhythms of, oh, I'm not consuming a lot of dance right now, but I'm in a lot of art spaces that don't have to do with dance, or I'm listening to music or going to live music shows. And I think it's nice to kind of toy with everything, because then when you return, which you inevitably do, it's always with this care and new juice that you can apply to that space that you like wouldn't have been able to had that not happened. And so, I very much feel like it's so important to seek out other things and other mediums and just other artists in general.
The winters are hard.
Yeah.
I hate winter. Like, I hate real winter. So, like, the actual, like, the winters in dance are, like, I feel unsuccessful. And, like, I'm like, I suck. I'm not doing anything right now. But realistically, I am doing other things. And sometimes those other things are just resting. Or, again, like, exploring something. Something
but especially,
new.
With it being your livelihood, there's almost this expectation of, oh, it has to be my everything all the time. I have to love it constantly. But you don't. Like, it's with anything. You're going to have seasons, and you're going to feel, at times, uninspired. And I think you just got to walk right through.
Well, and coming
periods.
Out of school, too. I think you have this, like, constant, like, make this, do this, go to class, do this. Like, there is very jam-packed. And then typically, like, as dancers, our whole lives are like that up until now.
Right.
Where it can still be like that, but there's also the chance where it's not. And that is, like, new territory to navigate of, like, okay, I don't have to do this all the time. It's okay to not do this. What else can I do? What else is there for me to explore now that there isn't this, like, the only expectation, the only pressure you get is from yourself.
Yes.
Not from, like, in school, it's like you have grades and you have teachers and like
the
just
external factors.
Yeah, but now, like, that doesn't really, it matters, but it doesn't hold the same weight as it did before, which is, that's really hard to learn, like.
And unlearn.
Learn and unlearn, like, what to do with that.
The emergence that you both had outside of your institution, I imagine it brought about, like you said, the unlearning of things, and, like, maybe that process is still ongoing today, even though it's been almost a year that you've both graduated. Do you feel like through the unlearning you can, like, shed a lot of blockages in your creativity?
Yeah. Yes.
This is.
I feel like I'm, like, coming out the cocoon. Shedding.
Yes.
There's something too. I always come back to the image of a spiral. It's very potent in my creative life. But, like, there's something in cycling through as you get older into, like, different phases of your life as you're getting to the next orbit of the spiral, where you can look back and appreciate at who you were maybe, like, 5 to, like, 10 years ago, and you witness the same themes or same ideas starting to unravel in your life, but it's on an elevated level where you can look back with that care. And I think even exiting an institution or a program like we were in, also throughout COVID, I just look at the inner critic I had at the start of it and the things that I've, like, taken away from both experiences in and outside the program, and I look at that now with the clarity, and I know, like, the processing I'm going to do in maybe 2-3 years, I'm gonna look at her now and say, oh, like, she was here so that I could be here. And I think it's just this, like, constant cyclical rhythm that you just have to witness and not try to beat yourself up too much about when you're in those, like, dying
this
seasons.
Sucks right now. This really sucks. But then you look back on it and you're like, that really sucked, but it is the reason why this maybe doesn't. Or maybe I have this new appreciation or outlook or perspective on something now because that was so horrible. And it's that whole thing of, like, your hindsight's 2020. You're able to look back and be like, I could have not done this. I could have, like, I should have done this, but it's done. And now you know going forward that, like, you have that new knowledge of, like, now I'm going to go into it like this, even when I feel like that, which is, it's really special to be able to look back on things.
Yeah, well, and as creatives, it's so big too, because the reality of archive or like re-understanding an idea that you took on years ago,
and how it's changed and evolved.
Yeah, our process, even our collective. You look at where we started, where the information we had, what we came in with, now evolving, changing, learning, growing, and that's constant.
As we also do that. So like it's expected that things are going to shift. It's never going to be exactly how it started, because you are never going to be exactly where you were in that place when you started it, and it has to change. If it doesn't change, then it's now outdated, and it's not serving us or the community with what we need now. And that's like, I would say that's like a very important thing, is like, what do we need? I think that's the big question, is always, what do we need? What does the community need? What do we need more of? What do we need less of?
Those winters that you said, Abby, I think for me, not to like tie everything together, but it's always about going to the community. What does the community need? I'm inside of the community, therefore I also probably need those things.
Yeah.
So if I'm feeling like, oh, I'm such a bad artist, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm isolating myself too much. Okay, now I ask myself, what can I get outside and do? And I think the community, the question of what it needs, for me, it always goes back to being with each other.
Yeah.
Whether that means supporting other works and going and being a witness to them, or supporting them in volunteering my time to help with outreach or repost something on social media, if that actually does anything. We were talking about earlier. Yeah, I just think there's like so much about being an artist that can become selfish. We were talking about like the selfishness of it. And that for me is when my art dies, if I'm being selfish, you know? And so you were speaking on your collective, like how did these two people who were simultaneously trying to figure out what the community needs, how did those two people unite?
Well,
what was the origin story?
The lore of Meaningful Movement. We had been going to school together, but we were in separate circles. Like we didn't really talk.
We didn't have classes together.
We didn't have classes together. You're right. So like we were very like separate.
Okay.
And then the pandemic happened, and that summer we both did Toast for Dance. We did Ignite that summer, and it was online on Zoom. So very, very different grouping and collective and experience, because we're all going through this like really hard time. So that was where we kind of like started to like interact a little more. After that, we were just like juiced up, feeling like really full, and we were like, I don't want that to end. We were having calls and then just like debriefing. Well, I don't want this to end, and you don't want it to end. So like, what can we do? Where do we go from here? That was like the main starting point. And then from there, we kind of just like
dove in,
fleshed it out, made some documents. We had a really
love
long
document.
We loved the document, and it's funny because we still have it.
Yeah.
And like, it's so interesting to like go back and like see where it started. We recorded calls, like of us just yapping about, this is what I'm feeling right now, and this is what I'm interested in. And that's also like a very different time for us. Like,
and even thinking about both of us entering the school system and just like brushing, not even being able to really interact. We had one night where there was an improv soiree that the dance department led, and we had just a beautiful improv moment, and it was so, there felt like a deep connection. There was like charge there. Yeah, and then we didn't interact for most of the rest of the school year, and it's, how is this system not facilitating this connection? Felt so bizarre to me. And then when we connected again, I just knew in my heart that I needed to make this more of a stronger relationship in my life, and also help build the spaces that we both wanted to see and impact, I think, not only our medium, but hopefully other artists and other mediums. That was something we were very big on from the beginning. We didn't want it to just be about dance, because we felt everything a full-bodied arts community holds on to every different type of artists. Though we were coming into it as two dance artists.
That's what we had. Like we were dance artists first in that space, so obviously we started in a like very dance focused, but also like
this is a space for everyone.
This is a space for everyone, and you don't have to like be a self-identified or like identified dancer to like be able to interact with this stuff. We were always encouraging like, use these as journal prompts, use these as like a drawing prompt. Like it doesn't have to elicit movement. It can be something else. And I think through the years we've been really trying to dive into that side of it of like, the question is like, how do we branch out from just dancers? Because a lot of our community is dancers and we have people outside of those communities, but it's how do we put it like all together? And I feel like we're starting to like
slowly
scratch the surface of like
putting things in terms that aren't just applicable to dancers. I think even creating Gathering was really the first time we were able to facilitate an event that was catered towards you can put on an art installation, you can make a song. This doesn't have to be just dance performance. All these things can coexist in one big conglomerate of a space.
Because it's all art.
Like, and they all can exist together and should, and it's so nice.
And they normally do. It's just in this like creative process way, they normally don't. Normally you work on something separately and then it comes together, or someone else has done something and then it comes. Very rarely is it coexist in the same space where you're cohesively working together on this thing that comes together and is now truly a mixed media type, mixed art type thing.
Yeah, that was the vision.
That was the vision, and the vision is going great in my opinion. Like to think we had made like a 5-year,
plan?
5-year like plan.
That's when you know it's a real marriage.
And especially like starting in the pandemic. We were like, okay, our expectations need to be a little lower.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get.
We're
if someone is touched by this space,
and it was
that's
also
enough.
like it started as an online community because we were in a pandemic, and
Spotlight Sundays was our first offering.
Our first like little like, here's something for you, share with us.
Incredible.
Because it's like we couldn't get together. We literally couldn't meet because we had to be apart. So it was very much an online community, and I think the shift from online to in-person, it was hard because like you build something online and then you're like, alrighty, now we all need to go outside and hang out and like create and do stuff and like to facilitate. It's not always the same, and it's not an easy thing.
There was a lot of spaces we would go to and it would be Zuri and I alone in the space, and you have to kind of start with we are showing up and that's enough, and trust that in time people will gravitate or come to this when it feels accessible. And I think just holding space in general is so important to my life mission, my soul work, and it was really nice to find someone who was willing to sit at the park with me and just wait and see if people would show up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the type of community, too. It's not like you're married to the community. You have to be at everything. You need to be there on time. Like, you have to be there the whole time. It's very much a come when you need it.
And come as you are.
Come as you are. Leave if it's not serving. Like, it's the in and out policy of, like, feel free to just be you, whether that is here or away from us or in and then out or out and then in. The free flow of it is really important because it's a community. It's not like you're signing up for this and you are now committed. It is committing on your own terms. We don't get a lot of that these days. It's a lot of like you're in or you're out.
There's a lot of exclusivity when it comes to gathering. And just even, you know, like you spoke on, well, if we're the only two there, at least we've shown up and we've created that space. I think that kind of work, although it can be like so humbling when no one comes, is so needed. It's so needed. The amount of times that facilitators either decide that they're not going to run an event or they try to make it more perfect and then it never ends up running. Being able to exist in our imperfect mess and like show up even if we're not perfectly ready to like receive everything. I think that work is what the community needs, the arts community particularly. But as humans, we need to see each other in person, especially after a pandemic.
Well, we'd show up and it would just be like, all right, no one else is here. What's going on? What do we need to do for this? And like it would
still serve the community.
We're still serving the community because we're serving us now because we have both shown up and now we have shifted to okay, we're not necessarily facilitating for a group of people or like one other person, but we are facilitating for us, which obviously looks very different, but it's the same. It's what we were going for in the first place, is to hold that space. We've created that space. Now the space is there and we're both in it. And we as facilitators are also allowed to use that space.
Right.
Like it's not like we have to just man the space. We can't like actually be in it. We're allowed to be a part of it because we are also a part of this community.
Very much. And yeah, to go back to the imperfect mess thing, I think the thing about like transitioning into spaces since the pandemic is very much clunky. People aren't used to being together. Things are still, though some years have passed, people's nervous systems are still readjusting to showing up in spaces physically together. And not only to honor that someone might need to leave or things might not go the way we planned as facilitators, gives everyone the grace in the space to honor who they are in that moment, what they're needing, and also things rarely go perfect in performance. Even when it is the most high caliber production, there's still tech issues, there's still stressful situations, and we have to manage those to the best of our ability. But as a young arts organization, we're going to have that, and that's going to be normal, and we're not expecting people to see us in this perfect light as we're creating this space. Like, we are going to be messy, and that is normal, and that's how we're going to learn and grow and improve these spaces for the community over time.
It's encouraging too to see that, because very often people don't do things unless it's perfect.
Yes.
Or it's polished, and that's not a realistic thing.
Right.
We're not perfect as humans and as artists. So to have an organization or a community that shares those imperfections makes you feel more comfortable, like, oh,
Yeah, I have permission to be imperfect.
yeah, it's okay. It's not just me, and it's not wrong if I do that. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's like a feeling of hope that I get talking about this, especially at a time where the arts aren't being funded as much as usual. Just going back to like the title of the collective, meaningful movement. There is an intention behind each step, each decision, each literal move. What is meaningful to you right now, and now being almost 2 years into this collective?
I think really giving a voice to everyone, which is very broad, but
It's a big task.
and that's the thing. It's such a big thing that can't be done right now. It's something that is prolonged, and like I think that's the overarching goal, like giving a voice to all artists, different walks of life, different races, different gender expressions, different mediums, creating a space where everyone feels safe and comfortable to come into that. Looking back, that was the goal, but not as like explicitly, this is the thing we're doing. But I think now, looking back and looking at where we've come since then, it's been the nugget, but it is like the rock now. It is like the root of it. It's grown into like the foundation of who we are and what we are here to do, not only for us, but also for others.
And I think going off of that speaks totally to how I feel. But also just this idea of meaningfully moving towards a goal really aligns with my vision towards what we're doing, because we are over time wanting to make this a more sustainable thing. You see so often artists going into processes or experiences as a one-off. It's this one-time short little community hub that supports you in a season, and then you say bye, maybe I'll work with you again, maybe I won't, but it's not sustainable for artists' livelihood. And when you separate some of those more at the moment professional factors, we are coming in community, we are building a space, and then it is our goal and aim through that space, through that community, to create opportunities. But at the starting point right now, it's a message, it's a movement that people can hopefully identify with and want to be a part of, feel like they can be a part of, and connect to. And I think, that means everything to me, that we've been getting people who are interested in sharing their voice in these spaces and who feel safe enough as artists to try something new.
To kind of jump in with us and just show up with us. That's like, it's huge.
It's a leap of faith. You're not getting paid to do this work immediately. We hope that you get something out of it. We hope that you get an idea or relationship that you can build on. But at the moment, this is an offering. and it's a standalone offering. And we ourselves as facilitators too aren't ceasing to gain anything other than the experience and the community. And I think for me, this is the soul work. So I can do that because I feel safe enough in my job that I work, my part-time job, that I have the space and energy to take this on. And I want to take this on. It's important to me. And I do want to dedicate time to this because it feels meaningful.
Yeah, it's always been a leap of faith from the minute we started. And I don't think that'll ever change. I think having that leap of faith energy, it's a nice way to enter things because you're not putting pressure on what it is. You're just,
we'll see,
going in and saying, okay, well, it is what it is and it will be what it will be.
When you spoke on when you two connected, there was a charge. Not to get all universal,
but we're there.
The energy was charged, and therefore is worth investigating more about. Because I can think of so many collaborations in my life where I've been trying to find that charge. It's just not happening naturally, and that's okay. No hard feelings between me and my collaborators. But when I feel that charge, I am able to sustain it more. I actually want to show up and do the extra work to make something happen. And I think that's something worth researching and taking a risk on. I think risk has been coming up in this conversation. We're just going to try it. And in the outcome of trying, we will discover something.
Even if it's what we want or what we don't want.
And failing. I think that's the biggest thing is you're holding an event of this magnitude with this many people. There are things that are going to go wrong. You may walk away from it feeling, oh, what could I have done more or what should I have done differently? But now I know. And if I hadn't done it to this level where I am having to step up and lead and hold people and navigate many different feelings and relationships to the space and what people are needing out of the space, if you don't go in the arena, you're not going to have the opportunity to figure things out. And you have to be vulnerable to do that.
It's a spiral. You can't look back if you haven't done it.
Those images are so clear to me. It's really helpful to have a symbol or something, because oftentimes, for me at least, my practice can just look like a bunch of symbols meshed together, or all of the colors in the rainbow coming together, and then they look black because I'm just I can't see anything.
Yeah, and very much the same thing as space work. It's so ephemeral. It's not, this is a product we can offer you. It's not an art piece. We do sell tote bags, but that's not... But we do offer things that are a one-time experience, and I think in this time frame in history, we need those more than ever. Things are increasingly digitized, and people aren't communing as much. There's not third spaces outside of home and work that people are frequenting as often, and I think space matters, and spaces where, like we were saying, all types of people can come, all types of artists, all types of human, all types of gender expression, race. These are all valid here, and these are all honored here, and we want to give a platform so that people can show up in community and feel safe to do that.
So important. You spoke on Gathering being one of your first all artists spaces, and you're hosting another one coming up in June, I believe.
Yeah, our third annual Gathering.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what that space looks like if I was to come in as not knowing what I was going to expect.
Well, we started off our journey with pairing together strangers from the internet. I did a little bit of Instagram stalking between everyone who applied and made sure there wasn't any links, that hopefully these would be complete strangers. Yeah, it's when we're here.
It's hard
doing
in this day and age,
especially
in arts community. Everyone's
people
connected.
know each other. And even if someone's following someone who has never actually worked or met with them, I'm still cautious to put them together because I want to make sure it's a genuine stranger. We pair together strangers, and over the process of January, February, March, April, May, 5-ish months,
That's 4 or 5
normally
our
months,
time frame.
we conduct a pairing. They work together 1 hour per week and build something with a space to work towards that is gathering. So when you come to gathering, it is 4 to 5 works in progress happening in the space. Some are movement, performance-based, some are installation, some are video.
Some are mixed.
Yeah, it's a
bit of everything.
Free space with no parameters other than it has to be outside or inside. And that leaves a lot of surprise. We usually don't know what the works are going to be until we arrive, like the day of the dress rehearsal, and I love it. It's like a gift. I am witnessing 2 artists get to know one another, speak each other's language, and then build something together. It's so rewarding, and we're also going to be having pop-up performances this year and picnic vendors on my front lawn. We are making this a space so that many, many artists can come together, witness art, connect, chat, and we're leaving so many in-betweens so that people can have that space. That's the juice. That's the important part.
Well, it's nice too. It's very much a community event because we've done it at parks, so people walking by just kind of see it and they're like, oh, what's happening here? Or this is odd in a park, what is this? And last year at our gathering, we had it at Abbey's house, and we had people just from the neighborhood just like walk in and show up and be like, what's going on? What is this? That's honestly the goal, is like the accessibility of our art. Yes, sharing it with just the artist, but also sharing it with art enthusiasts or people who really don't know anything about art, because I think that's another bridge that is lacking in our community.
100% agree. How
How do we make our art accessible for other people? And that's not to say that your art always needs to be accessible for everyone. It is okay to have some exclusivity with your work, but I think there are times and spaces where that should be allowed. How do we invite them in and show them our process? And I think with gathering, like,
it's at the root of why
it
the space
is.
exists.
Yeah, like, you know, these blind date style creations and very much work in progress works. The goal isn't this like big flashy production. It is just to like, look at these 2 people who just met and have just been collaborating together in their mediums and working towards this today that you were seeing. This might go beyond this. It might end here.
Partners have gone on to work together past gathering. Like Haley and Katie from last year's gathering continued to work together and make beautiful things. And it's so
It's nice to like
lovely.
be like, oh, it's so nice to see like this is where it started. This is the introduction of how these people got together and now they do this. Being able to introduce different people from different mediums as well has been really nice, because we try as best as we can to pair artists with different mediums. So like a dancer with a writer. That way, like, people are working with someone who they maybe wouldn't normally work with, because we've learned that like there are very different timelines in how artists work in their mediums. A music timeline is different than a dance. So visual is different. They have different timelines. So that's another like really cool learning curve and navigation that we learn, but also that the artists collaborating together learn.
Multi-layered, the ability to, again, kind of go outside of one's practice and factor in another person's practice. I think that's such a great experience to fail at and to be like totally unaware of what's going on. And then, like you said, these 2 artists,
Haley and Katie, they're great. Both of them coming together in their exhibition last year was such a delicious expression of bodies and connection, and then to have them go on to do exhibits at the Mocha where Haley was photographing Katie's work is gorgeous, and that's why we do this, because people can build forever relationships with other creatives that exist outside the space. It's ongoing. It doesn't end the day gathering ends. I know people who have done this space together that still have a long-lasting relationship, even just as a friend, even as a connection in this space. And
supporting.
we ask prompts in the Google form that everyone fills out to really make sure people who are together are on the same page about what it is they're building and what they're looking for in a creative collaborator, what they're needing at this point in their creative practice, and ensuring that we as the matchmakers do our best to
give
at
them
least
that.
meet some of their needs.
Yeah.
Like, it's never going to look like one specific way for each partnership, but it always ends up an experience of awe, seeing how these people start from nothing and make something and form a relationship, which
Right.
is what I love doing this.
Yes, absolutely. It's so needed, this work. And so that's happening in June.
Yeah,
Yes.
June 14th, hopefully with Throw Park.
Yeah, our location.
And it's outside.
Yes,
Yes,
the goal-
partly outside.
We want it to be partly outside because
Amazing.
we're very it's nice out. It's so nice to dance outside. We're
100%.
so often dancing inside spaces that sometimes it's nice to take it outside. Locations
And
are also to be determined.
Yeah, my home, which I will not be sharing publicly, but yeah, you will be led to a park, and then from that place led to our second iteration of the pop-up. There's going to be also pop-up performances from people outside of this process. Profile alum are going to be doing some sort of performance, so there's going to be lots of nuggets of wonderful artist humans in
Nuggets
this space.
of past
Yeah.
meaningful movement
Yeah.
friends. That whole thing of
Well,
like
it's a celebration of
we
meaningful.
start
Yeah.
it and then and we give you more opportunities to come back. So come join us, and then there's so many chances for you to come back and still be a part of all of the work we do, because we are building that community of people so that we have those networks.
Very much, it seems like there's an interest in not just one-offs,
Yeah.
but the continuation. That's so incredible. So highly celebrating that. Speaking of, how is at Profile? Right?
Yeah, at Profile.
How is that different from Gathering?
So Profile was an endeavor I took on as my senior project at York University, and I had an idea to make a dance space, and this space is a little bit more exclusive because it's primarily for movers, though I am really interested in doing an interdisciplinary profile, so stay tuned for that. But Profile is a dance-based art gallery, which takes place with 4 artists in one space, exploring improvisation through solo and group scores. And the premise of the space is to identify the dancers in relationship to the audience, then as an individual. So the scores go artist as other, then artist as self, then artist as group, where the dancers interact with each other. And the work finishes with artist as gallery, where we invite the audience physically into the space that the dancers are dancing in, encourage them to walk around, get different perspectives, and act as if it was an art gallery, only there's moving bodies in the space. And it's so magical. I love it. This is going to be our 10th iteration of Profile happening on May 24th. And I'm so excited to, just have another group of movers existing together. I think truly it makes me happy to give space for emerging artists to get a nice documented video of themselves dancing, have a chance to perform when they're maybe in a season where they really need it. So many of the dancers I've been working with have just been yearning for a space to show up as themselves. And it's a short, low-stakes process. We have one rehearsal, and then there's a performance. It's very low commitment. It's really doable for someone who's figuring out their life as an artist and needing time to explore an idea or just perform and get that muscle used again. And I'm really happy to provide that space and hope to keep doing it.
It seems like I would get to know the artists so deeply.
Yeah, it's very intimate too. All the venues we use are primarily dance studios or places where you're sitting on the floor. You're very much at eyes gaze with the artists rather than a theater setting where it's performer-audience separation.
Far away.
You are existing together. You are also involved in the space. We are relying on you to contribute energetically, walk around, just test out. There's been times where people who don't proclaim themselves to be dancers start moving in the space, and that makes me so happy.
That is so beautiful. The proximity to the artists feels
drawing you in.
Yes, more attractive in that sense. Like an art gallery where I really get to see the art piece of art up close. I can see the brush strokes. That same proximity for dancers I think is so important because we're used to being far away from our audience and we're supposed to be this shape rather than this actual three-dimensional body.
Yeah.
So exciting. So those summer events are coming up.
Yes, yeah, and hopefully more profiles to come. I am anticipating doing a Pride collection of profile, which I'm really excited about, and interdisciplinary on the horizon. But our 2 solid events at the moment will be the May 2-4 profile and gathering.
June 14th gathering.
So if you're listening and you are an artist as a mover, but also not,
We want you all there.
Yes.
Any artist, even if you don't necessarily claim yourself as an artist, but dabble in an art form.
Yeah.
An art form, or just want to see something new. I think we invite all of those people. So that's literally everyone.
Literally. This is an event for everyone. There is not a person in the city.
Bring the babies, bring the kids. We've talked a lot about how do we branch out to working with kids, because we both work with kids outside of Meaningful. Kids are so interesting to work with. You learn a lot from them, and it would be really cool. We've talked about maybe we need to figure out how we would do an event with kids. How do you facilitate that? How do you
how would they react to this type of free play for all? How much structure would we need to impose in order to get things accomplished? There are so many things that we could learn and fail at.
Right. Yes.
This is the thing.
Learning and failing, very important to our community.
It's so needed. And I don't know. For me, it's what I'm searching for most in my life these days. When I think about my dance practice, it was always about perfection. For me, growing up, it was how can I make this feel more perfect? Or how can I look more perfect? Or how can I change my body, my mind, my soul so that I'm fitting into this ideal? And that sucks. And that's really not, for me, what dance is about anymore. It's actually about connecting with non-dancers. It's about connecting with other artists. It's all of the movement that I've learned and this practice that I have can now be transferred and shared to people who have a completely different background than I do. And we can really move together in a meaningful way. So totally jazzed that you both are making the time to facilitate this stuff. And I've said it before, but I really don't think that other people understand how much work it takes to put something up like this, to make sure that you have a group of artists at the same time going to be performing or meeting together. So thank you for your work for the community. Your voices are absolutely needed. And I know people, I'm sure, have said their gratitude to you, but I just want to reiterate how important this work is. I'm so, so grateful to have this kind of opportunity where I can be involved in it as well.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for giving us a platform and for doing this work, because I feel, equally as enamored with love and care for how you're holding space for us and other artists to talk about what they do and why they do it and sharing. I think there was this thing I saw the other day on the internet talking about how gossiping was really just this protective mechanism people would use to get access and deal information and make sure that people were communing in the right ways. And I do feel in the most non-judgmental, loving way possible, we are gossiping, we are sharing the dish, we are spilling everything we need to share, and people need to give us space to do that. And you are a great space holder.
We don't get that a lot.
Yeah.
It's very much you just do the thing and people see it. Very, very rarely do you get to really talk about where did this come from, why do you do it, why do you do it as a collective, why do you do it individually. The whys and the conversations don't happen in the same way as our output of things does. So it's nice to have a platform for us to just come in here, have a little kiki and talk about things. And it's also a nice informal space for us just to be we're just talking about who we are, what we like to do, and why we do what we do, versus here are your interview questions. tell me. The dreaded, like, tell me about yourself question. That, like, this is the, like, complete opposite. This is what we need more of as artists, is spaces for us to just, like...
And intentional conversations,
Yeah.
I think, as opposed to the very structured, less soul can bleed through. Like, these are conversations we were joking that we've been flirting about having for months. Like, this is the space that, like, just comes organically and naturally out of care. And yeah, I feel like our practices, our spaces are very aligned in that, like...
Which is so nice. It's nice to find people that are like, hey, perfect aligning.
It's like so aligned that I feel like I'm like trying to draw up questions and I'm like, well, they already would probably ask me that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like we need to talk about it. And so you both facilitate spaces to talk. And I'm facilitating like the 98th episode of this podcast. And I'm like, this is so meaningful. Like, it just feels...
Everything is meaningful.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you.
Thank you.
If people want to get connected with the 2 events that you have coming up or stay connected with you, how would they do that? What's the best place to reach you?
Our Instagram.
Yeah, currently we are most reachable via the internet, but we can also email us if you want us to send you info as well. The meaningful with 2 L's movement at gmail.com. And yeah, we are looking to connect in whatever means is accessible. And I personally have a flip phone, so I definitely can appreciate the trying to veer off the internet as a means to connect to people, but Instagram is also...
But we're also on Instagram.
accessible.
We're also, because we need to be accessible to everyone, but also catering to everyone's needs, where we do have those opportunities for online communication, but also very happy to get together in a park or get together at a coffee shop and just chat and share things.
I gotta be able to reach your tote bags whenever I can. And I can do that on the internet.
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I will link all of that below. Anything else that you want to project to the world? What has meaning for you for this summer?
Finding creativity and inspiration. I've been in a rut, so I've been really searching for, like, how do I get back to this thing that I know I love, but also know that I needed space from? And it's a hard place to be in, that, like, jumping back in is so scary. So I think, this summer I'm hoping to research movement and things I'm interested in, talk to people, because I work with Meaningful Movement because I started this to create a community, because I am a very community-based person. I work from conversations and from other people. I have a very hard time doing things on my own. I can do it if I have conversations with myself or other people, but I very much rely on what do people need, what do I need, what am I getting from that? It's the way my brain works, is it starts to run when I start talking. So even like doing this podcast, going to see shows and talking to people about their work is the thing that like makes me re-inspired to be like, okay, like I can do this, because people are also going through the same thing that I am, and it's very real and it's very valid. So yeah, jumping back in, I have hope that I'm going to get back into it in a even stronger and healthier, more nourished way than I was before. And it's really excited to be like entering my next stage of like, who am I as an artist and a creator? Because we go through so many of those. Who am I outside of an institution? Who am I outside? Like, it's a big, like, everlasting question, and I think constantly learning about myself. I feel like I've learned a lot about myself in the past year, so just continuing to delve into that and use that creatively, I think, is my courage and my hope for the summer and beyond.
Love hearing all of that. So valid.
No, I echo so much. I think talking and reflecting is so important, because you do need to recognize where you've been, where you're going, and I'm definitely manifesting more meaningful personal projects. That was also one of the like pillars of our initial starting out, was making a dance film with the lovely Sean Sutar and doing it in my apartment, and I feel excited to pursue more projects that speak to our personal artistic journeys, and then also
The collective.
continuing to hold space.
Yeah.
Also working on my own stuff. I've been doing some movement research lately in my forever project Spiralide. I am very excited to keep that ball rolling and give expression to my ideas in ways I don't know how to yet.
So exciting.
And fail. More failing.
So much failing. That's
love
the biggest
it.
thing. We love to fail.
It always leads to an answer, whether I'm ready for it or not.
Yes.
That's so beautiful. I see just so much opportunity that you both provide to the community in terms of a way forward. And I can't thank you enough for that. When all is lost, we can at least have each other.
Yes.
Word.
Okay. Community.
Community. Thank you so much. This is so fun. And the sun is out.
I know. I was like, I'm
getting
sweating.
hot.
I was like, I'm sweating now.
Our waterfall has turned into a sauna. Mm-hmm. Oh,
The sun always comes out. Season change.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bree. This is lovely.
It's been great.
Thank you so much for listening to the Artversations podcast. Please help the podcast community continue to grow by clicking subscribe or follow on your podcast platform and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at ArtVersationsPod. You'll find photos of the guest you just heard, plus highlights and quotes from each episode. Let's keep the Artversation going. Send in a DM with your thoughts about art and any questions you might have for guests. Special thank you goes out to Jen Marquez and Maxim Bartnowski for their contributions. And thank you, listener. Till next time.